Today. So I have a Switch and a Switch 2 connected with an HDMI switch, but when I switch to the Switch 2, the Switch also switches. And then I have to go out into the yard and kind of switch.
Yeah.
And then come back and...
Yep. That scene that I love from Fawlty Towers where Basil Fawlty gets so mad at his car and he just runs out of frame as he's yelling at it. He runs out of frame and he comes back in. He starts beating it with a giant tree branch. And it's so perfectly done because it's like the camera doesn't follow him to see what he's doing. It just stays right there. So when he comes back into frame, you just see this massive branch come in and start beating his car. And I'm like, that's good comedy.
Yeah, if you're not aware, Switch is also a name for essentially a stick that people sometimes beat other people with.
Yeah. Yeah.
Fun facts.
Mm-hmm. Funny you describe a thing though, Paul, that like at home we had a problem because we have our in our setup at home I've got an HDMI receiver, just like your standard kind of AV receiver, and on the 4 inputs I now have we have our Apple TV, then our Switch 2, then our Wii U, and our Nintendo Switch. And trying to get these things to behave and like turn on and off as you want them to has been a bit of a process.
I mean, that was a big thing. That was the thing here in the office. I remember when the original Switch first came out.
Yeah.
Because it had a cool thing, or it had a I don't know if it was a bug or a deliberate thing in its HDMI protocol where it would kind of put out like a pulse every certain amount of time to just sort of like keep it awake.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
But if you have an HDMI switch connected to it, it goes like, oh,
signal.
The switch woke up.
Yeah.
And so people would be streaming on like the computer or the PlayStation, and it would just go boonk and switch over to the But
great.
they fixed that anyway.
Yeah.
Hey everybody.
Yes.
Welcome to ChillPoint, show where we talk about the week's video game news.
This is Paul.
I'm Paul.
This is Paul.
This is Heather.
Yeah.
This is Beej.
Mm-hmm.
This is Paul.
This is Paul.
This is me. We also have the episode, of course, of Checkpoint that came out yesterday with Beej and Kathleen. And stories written by Graham and Beej and Nelson and Cameron. All sorts of good stories.
Mm-hmm.
It is rather bright in here.
I was gonna say.
Yeah, but the overheads are not.
I think
I think the camera's somehow
gain might be too high.
Mm.
Yeah, gain might be too high.
Game might be too high.
Yeah,
the game itself.
It is what it is.
Mm-hmm.
You don't really need to see us, right?
Yeah.
Right.
I could go over and start messing with it, but I feel like that's.
I literally put a wall in front of me between all of you.
Yeah. I could go over and start messing with it, and I don't know what I'm doing.
Anyway.
Really wanted to shine this week.
Mm-hmm.
Let's talk about the stories that were in the episode of Checkpoint. Starting with Kojima.
Yeah.
Is weird.
Mm-hmm.
Well,
but he wants to be weirder.
Mm-hmm.
But he could be weirder. Yeah. I feel like there's been, I guess it's because Death Stranding 2 is coming out soon. There's been a lot of coverage of Kojima.
Well, there'll be probably a lot of interviews with him.
And he's he's a particularly entertaining interview in a lot of cases, or at least says things that are kind of unusual. And so people like to do it. And, this is kind of actually related to the whole, we talked about the USB stick that he gave because he was sort of feeling his own mortality.
Yeah.
And this interview they did with GQ is sort of encapsulates some of the same kind of stuff that he sort of like had kind of a joking tone.
Yeah.
But it was kind of serious stuff that he was talking about.
Yeah.
This idea of like not he's like, anytime I'm not like working on things, I'm like I should be working on, I need to be doing things to sort of cement my legacy or whatever. Or
Yeah.
not legacy, or just sort of like
I want to just be able to create the things that I see in my head,
Yeah.
and I'm having the trouble that I'm coming up with more things in my head than I have actual time or ability to create.
so. That's that's something that I think a lot of creative people deal with.
There's
Death? No, everyone
But-
kind of goes through that.
Well, no, but
period.
the idea of getting all your whatever creative stuff you want to do out.
Yeah. And there is the, I mean, this has been like in any field, you can always point to somebody who is like, we have to do things to make money in order to actually fund the creation of the creative work. And therefore, we have to make things that'll be commercially successful because we need to make the kind of money we need in order to then eventually do this. I look at Clamp and the manga, like manga is one of those things where like Clamp got big enough to be interesting like to a lot of publishers, but they also realized we have to make commercially viable things so that then we can work on our baby, which is
Yeah.
X.
Well, and it's X.
I know.
It's really
It's what they wanted to create. It's not what anybody else wanted to read.
There's
But
so
it's
many
true.
issues with that one. But it's the hard thing, right? It's like, oh, be creative, be standout, so people will see you and
Yes.
want you. But only if a lot of people want you.
There's that, yeah,
Be
and
creative
it's-
within certain parameters.
yeah, and Kojima, like I think the big reason to do a story like this, and Graham's the one who wrote the story, and I'm kind of like, oh, I think that Graham wrote this story for a reason.
Well, I mean, if you look at Metal Gear Solid or Death Stranding or
Yeah.
these games, the idea that Kojima was in some way limited,
Yes.
and was sort of self-censoring in the course of making these games in order to make them less weird,
Yeah.
is kind of that's the part that is sort of like, okay,
Yeah.
I mean, I guess.
Like, well, if you draw a line from like those earlier games, and I think you do that with any auteur, right? It's like you draw a line from their earlier work to their later work, and you realize that their stuff has always been a little bit weird, and it's just gotten weirder and weirder and weirder over time. Like Katamari Damacy, and then
Right,
Nobi
right.
Nobi Boy, and like stuff like that. And for a different creator, obviously, but that style of thing where it's like you move into something that's just an even weirder game or activity or whatever to play, and then you realize you're like, oh, these guys do have a lot of crazy ideas, and depending on who's willing to shepherd them through that, like the producers that are willing to say, hey, so and so, this is a great idea that you have, but also we need to adapt it in a way that's going to attract more people to want to experience it. That's the harder thing to do.
Let's also not forget that we have seen plenty of people who are creative who start wherever and they have to work within confines, and then they get given full reign, and it's very clear they need the confines.
Yeah.
And it's not necessarily a marketing of
They
this
need
is better
guardrails.
for people.
Yeah.
Yeah,
But
and-
they'll go off. Like, editors are really important for that reason. Having people who can take a look at your thing and be like, hey, by the way, your stuff actually just stops making sense.
Yeah.
Yeah. Sometimes those restrictions are part of the reason why it actually worked in the first place.
And
Yeah.
so, like with this story here, there was some comments, I think, where people were like, "Wow, it's like it's kind of a mean story or whatever. Like they're mean spirited or whatever, that kind of thing. Or like, oh, we're making fun of Kojima." It's like, I think what it is obviously because it's ChillPoint, we're making fun of a thing, but also it's super interesting to see that someone who's like, if only I could get out of this straitjacket, I could actually concentrate on the real value of my work. And then the moment they do, they're like, oh, wait, there were all these other things that I didn't see and the stuff that I
Yeah.
didn't realize because I was concentrating an awful lot on fulfill the creative vision, get the thing out there. And there were all these people around me who were managing those harder pieces, right? How do I make sure this person gets paid? How do I make sure healthcare is coming through? I'm sitting here thinking about all of these other additional aspects of the work, especially other people. And the creative person sometimes doesn't have to spend that much time thinking about the minutia of someone's trying to file, a claim for healthcare with a company, and they need you to intercede to help them actually be able to make the claim go through, and like
Right.
little businessy
No,
shit like
or
that.
even just a thing of like getting licensing for a song
Yeah.
that they want to be using,
Yeah.
or getting a specific person on board with doing the voice work or
Yeah. And so this is an instance of a creative person being like, I got out of my straitjacket, now I can do what I want. Oh my God, wait, there's so much more at stake here that I didn't realize. And it's kind of like, imagine like singular indies, like people like Concerned Ape and Local Thunk, like with Stardew Valley and Balatro and like all that kind of stuff. It's like you get to be a big success, you get to make a thing, and then it's out there and you became very successful. And so now where do you go from here? Do you pivot to I need a team? Well, are you that kind of developer where you can be like I need to work with a team? Or are you the kind of developer it's like I did really well on a game like this, but maybe your success is more about I put 8 years into making this one thing.
So
like
yeah, I mean,
blueprints.
based on some of the stuff I've read for how the coding and the development went for Stardew Valley, I don't know that I'd want to be that kind of creative person. Like the way the things that burden you in that aspect are much more like depression and a lot of other stuff. And
it does take a certain type of person.
That I wouldn't say that was like a fun creative time necessarily.
Yeah.
Apparently he has a desk now. Everyone was very happy about that. They're like all throughout the production of Stardew Valley and there's been various things have come up, where he's shown like his working environment and it's like a lot. It's like a monitor on top of like a bunch of books and stuff. It was just like the worst setup.
Yeah.
And people are like, you can get a desk.
Yeah, you might have the money for that.
If I recall, Stardew Valley was a I've quit my job or I've lost my job kind of thing. I'm going to spend a few weeks coding a very simple thing to show off work that I can do. It's become a bigger thing. Now I have people who are excited about this thing, just like local like relatives and stuff that I've been talking to, and it's not perfect yet, so I need to make it perfect.
Yeah.
And
and then it just
then just like years go by.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I'm glad it worked out. I enjoy the game a lot, but when you read about like the process of a person going through that, if you've been through that kind of creative spiral too, of the thing you're working on is never good enough, so you're never going to put it out.
I think it's nice when you can point to. I think it's nice when someone who's involved with like someone who feels themselves as a creative person, the kind of person is like I come up with the ideas and I draw the stuff and I make the stuff and I sculpt it and I code it and I do all the things, right, like that kind of thing. I think it's nice when they get to not just see but also experience the other side of what does it take to operate an organization that brings your things to life. I think that's really important. And I also think at the same time it's also really important for people who are very buttoned down, bean counting, the kind of the anyone who's an accountant or anyone who's working with a specific piece of a process of a company gets to see, well, here's the larger picture of what it is that you're helping to support. That when you can be like, you can walk in and see, I can see what these people have to go through to try to make a thing happen. Because then you're not, as a business person, you're not being like, I need 25 widgets by Wednesday 4:30, right? And it's like, that's not how this business works. Like you need room to breathe and become creative and to think things through, right?
I mean, unfortunately, it is often how this business works. It's how it should work.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Yeah. The idea of going through like mortality though, and I think it's like we made fun of the USB drive thing because it sounds funny to be like, I'm leaving you a bunch of ideas, but at the same time I think it's kind of neat.
I mean, it is like,
it's going to be one of those things where because Kojima has such notoriety as well, it's going to be a thing of if his company, like if he ever passes away and his company ends up folding or whatnot, that USB stick will probably be a thing that will be within books and things about his life story and whatnot. And there might be some really neat things on there. There might not. It might be like we all come up with ideas all the time here where we're like, no one shall ever know that.
Yeah. It would be great if they're all just like terrible ideas.
Yes.
I mean, that from what I understand of
then-
game dev, there are plenty of things that sound like a good idea on paper, and then once you try to like implement them, you're like, this is boring.
I mean, there's
What
books
about-
that are like that, right?
Yeah.
Or just like, what about table tennis, but digitally? It's like Kojima-san. They have that already. It's Pong.
Yeah.
Yeah, or as the
No, but I
Merrick
mean,
has
like-
said,
Or
maybe
can we
there's
license it?
1,000 more reasons why Quiet had to be almost nude.
Yeah.
That would actually kind of be funny to me
Maybe yes.
to see that.
Other things that will make us ashamed
There's
for
plenty
our
of
words
stuff
and
that-
deeds.
Yeah.
I think too that like once we start entering our 50s, like once everybody here starts like closing in on their 50s and being like, oh shit, yeah, you know, this, I spent more time in this industry than out of it kind of idea, right? Or that I have spent more time in this industry than there is left for me to be in kind of idea. I mean, that's not true. Mel Brooks is making Spaceballs too. So let's be honest. Like, you can make things until you're ready to die. But the idea of, you know, if there's less time before retirement, and you're kind of like, well, you start to think about what do you cement as your legacy? What's the stuff that's left to do that you're like, we never got around to doing X, and so I'd like to get around to doing X, you know, and then what do you change about the process and the company and all those kind of things. And I'm like, and I'm thinking, because I'm like 5 years away from being 50. And so for me, it's like, I'm going to be a little ahead of that just to know that it's like, I can see that coming for everyone else. It's like, are we going to start feeling more introspective? Are we going to start feeling different about how we make things around here? And
I think it's really optimistic that you think that any of us get to retire.
yeah, I mean, yeah, I'd like to think that there will be room for that, but you know, I mean, I can't tell if what you mean by that is that, because we can't make the money to retire, or it's like it's just going to be fucking impossible to retire in the kind of society we live in.
Well, I mean,
Two things.
money, the fact that most people I know don't actually, especially in a creative work, never fully retire. Like they might say they retire, but that just means they end up working on something different.
Can just slow down a little bit.
It's true.
You know.
Yeah.
But also, I just don't. I assume that none of us will have the money to actually retire, and we gotta all hope that nothing really bad happens to us, so that we can live our whole lives.
Yeah. I think
That's the kind of mood that I'm gonna be in for years.
I'm pretty sure that I know Canada has a mandatory age in which they want to start paying you old age pension, and everybody does pay into the Canada pension plan
I
as
think
well.
it's 65.
Yeah, or 67. Did they bump it up?
Well, they might have bumped it up
For
I don't
OAP,
know.
something like that. Anyway, yeah, it's one of those things that I'll have to care about in another 5 years to really start thinking about what happens. Anyway, yes.
Speaking of people dying,
Yes.
Hitman.
All right.
World of Assassination.
There's that retirement plan, isn't there?
Yeah. Although I feel like waiting until people die of old age is not one of the ways that you're allowed to do for the. It's not really a good. That's not really a good assassination.
Sorry, Paul.
Strategy.
I was talking about taking supplemental jobs.
Oh, I see.
Oh,
Yes.
I don't know if any of us would be good at that.
Probably not.
I feel like
I mean, James would be. He's a fucking killer in PUBG. Like he could probably hit somebody from a distance.
you do know that
I don't know if that translates.
a computer
very well.
gun is very different from firing a
Yeah.
rifle,
Yeah.
right?
Fair.
I've fired a gun. They're
I
not
have
the
too.
same.
No, they're not the same.
Also, I thought you were gonna say that James would be really good at it because he just kind of like sneaks in sometimes and you don't notice him.
There's that too. He's very quiet. Yeah. He has he walks around in sock feet.
I like James a lot.
Yeah.
I like how quiet he is.
Sometimes he comes up behind you and like makes like he's gonna put a thing around your neck.
You know, he reads
That has
books.
never happened. He reads
He's
books.
a really interesting person.
Yeah.
And quiet ones always are.
He likes to listen to vinyl. He's a nice beard. You have a nice beard actually too. This
Thank
whole
you.
situation is looking great.
Thank you.
Yeah. Hitman.
Hitman. Anyway. So yeah, there's a new elusive target for the next. It's only for the next 30 days, by the way. That's why it's an elusive target, which is annoying because it sounds cool.
Yeah.
But,
Okay.
got to get that FOMO in there. But yeah, Le Chiffre from
Casino Royale.
Casino Royale is going to be a target in Hitman, and you're going to be. They haven't actually said what the area. It looks like you might be in Monte Carlo or you're in some. You appear to be in some big casino, as like in Casino Royale. I assume like, and they say you'll be able to like play poker and play roulette and like actually play some of the casino games.
Oh, maybe you can beat him at roulette.
Yeah.
I would assume that there are ways, because of course the big thing with Hitman is there's all sorts of different, there's
1,000 ways to
thousands
die.
of different ways to kill people.
Yeah.
So I'm assuming that there is some way to do it by playing poker with him, or while playing poker. I don't know.
I hope so, because that does sound super cool.
Because I mean that's sort of what's in the movie, right? Is
Yeah.
that like by beating him at poker, he's like way in debt to his backers,
Yeah.
and to the people he's supposed to be banking for, and he is sort of in deep trouble.
Yeah.
So that could be a thing. What I love about Hitman, I really enjoyed playing the Hitman games, and I liked both both of these sort of extremes of doing it. Where there's one version where like you hire Agent 47 to kill this guy,
Yeah.
and not only does the guy die, but like everybody in the city block that the guy was in
Wait.
dies.
You can subcontract?
Jesus.
Instead of going out and doing the hit, you can just be like, someone else go do it. You can.
Well, no. You're hiring Agent 47. Like if you're the person putting out the hit on whoever, you go like, and then Agent 47, goes and is going to go do the thing. But yeah, you can do like sort of a high stress or high alertness mode where you're sort of basically, murderalizing everybody and exploding things and blowing things up and stuff. Or there's the other way of doing it where you put in you pay a bunch of money
Right.
to hire Agent 47, and then in the next couple of weeks the guy dies through entirely natural causes.
Yeah. What looks like it's like this is just he just died.
And you're like, that doesn't count.
Yeah.
That just happened. Did it?
Well,
You got what
I don't
you
know.
wanted,
I feel
right?
like if you put out money for that kind of thing, and the person dies within, I'm assuming you give like a time frame. You're not like, here, have this money, and I'll wait for this person to die, and then in 65 years they just die of natural causes, and you're like, oh, it's all good. I don't know.
Some of the ways that you can kill people, like you're not even there. You just like, move something, set something up, and then leave. And it's like booby trapped, and the guy, something will happen.
If you pay somebody, and this is definitely hypothetical, to kill someone else, and it totally looks like natural causes, I don't know what kind of legal recourse you have.
You take him to court, yeah.
Of saying, hey, I paid this person money to kill him, and he didn't do it.
Well, no,
I think
the legal recourse says you pay somebody else to kill that guy, and then.
But then you're just throwing more money after bad.
Yeah, that's the sunk cost fallacy, definitely.
Yeah.
It's a real problem. Like it's why it's a tough job. That's why you got to get somebody reliable. That's why you get Agent 47. But yeah, he's so I mean I like that
really reliable?
you can do that both sort of forms of things. But and yeah, so presumably you'll have all sorts of different ways that you can deal with Le Chiffre. But the thing that we were making fun of in this particular story was that, the idea that it's an entirely unique experience that you can't have in any other game.
Yeah.
Which is true in certain ways.
Yeah, if you really consider all of Hitman, that's true. Yeah.
But in the context of there's no other games in which you can kill a Bond villain and also play poker. It's like, well, that's actually pretty common.
Yeah. Just because
fine.
just because you stuck a clock on a kitchen device of some sort, you didn't invent a new item, right? You just stuck a clock on it.
Which is fine. Let's. I mean, if we said that Hitman was like not unique at all, but it was the best at what it did.
Yeah.
That's still a really good thing.
There's that too. Yeah. It's that it was more about like laser targeting and a way to read the comment, because obviously
Right.
it's like, sure, when I look at Hitman, I'm like, this is a really cool idea that you can pick and choose your path to kill your target, and you can do it however you want, and there's all sorts of like ridiculous like tool assisted speed runs and all sorts of other stuff that people do, and I'm like, yeah, I'm not discounting that Hitman is very good at giving you a sandbox to play in to try to make this stuff happen, and I think that's excellent. And I'm sure that in this elusive target mission, it's going to be much the same. You have so many different ways you can think about how to do this. You just walk up and just punch him in the face, I guess, maybe if you wanted to, right? It's like, you did it. That was fucking stupid, but you did it.
Well, okay, wait.
But-
Paul, you said you played a little bit of Hitman.
Oh, yeah.
Is there an element of you can't be caught?
Depends. Sometimes, yes, depending on how you wanted to play it. In the harder, like at the harder levels of difficulty, there's the things where, like, yeah, you can't be caught, or the mission will end if you get caught. At the sort of base level, no, you can get caught. I mean, people will shoot you, so you'll die.
Oh, okay.
So you know.
Well, yeah, I'm just curious about like what the
But yes,
what the
you can
consequences
you can
of
definitely
those actions are.
like mess it up and then
Like-
try to sprint for the exit and get there before.
Because if I go up to a person and smash them in the face with my fist in front of a whole bunch of people, and then
But
it's like, well, I did it.
I mean, like I said, the that is a viable strategy. The just like scorched earth. If leave, it's like there will be no witnesses, either because nobody saw me or somebody saw me, and then everybody has to die.
Yeah.
All right.
But yeah, by the way, yeah, Hitman speedruns are the funniest.
Oh, I bet. Yeah, I bet those are pretty good.
My favorite is just because of the setup. And I like to imagine, you know, all right, Agent 47, this is your mission. We have to kill these 3 people.
Right.
And he goes, all right, I will need a sniper rifle and a muffin.
Right.
Right. Yeah.
Because what they figured out, there's a specific spot you can stand.
Yeah.
And you can shoot. There's like a chandelier that you can shoot at exactly the right time and it'll fall in the thing. But you don't quite have enough height. The one object that has exactly the right height is a muffin.
Yep. You can just
And so
stand in the muffin.
You throw the muffin on the ground, stand on it. That gets you a slight, like 5 pixels extra height.
So this is a game that's like, yeah, you could go full murder spree if you wanted to, but it's also kind of
It's kind of encouraged
like
to find other ways.
yeah, it's almost
Oop, sorry, that's my fault. I banged the thing under the table.
loud, man.
Yeah, I know. I didn't mean to.
You can almost treat it like a puzzle game in a lot of ways.
Oh, it is, yeah. It's often referred to as like almost like clockwork going out. Like everybody, because everybody in the, like everything in the level has their own sort of paths that they go and do things that they're going to do and stuff.
And I imagine that also means that if you like, well, if I close off a route for somebody for some character, it's like, well, they can't go through an area now, so
Yeah,
they might
and
try
you-
to repath or do something.
And you
else.
can change things, yeah.
Yeah,
Okay, so kind of like Ghost Trick, but without the time element.
yeah,
In fact, I believe there's another speedrun I saw where a large portion of how getting the speedrun to work properly is, because it's all about you poison the guys, or you put like a diuretic in the guy's food so he has to run to the bathroom. But the important thing is that you have to get another guy into the bathroom first, because then he knows that then he'll run to a different bathroom, and the other bathroom is the one that you want him to run to.
I
So there's
see.
like a whole thing about that. But
that's
yeah.
cool.
Anyway, also I can't let a story about Hitman go past without further lamenting the terrible monetization system not even monetization system, just the like release thing that they've done for World Assassination. From what I understand, it was some sort of bizarre combination of like things the publisher wanted, the developer didn't want to do, but the publisher forced them to do, and then they changed publishers and all stuff. But anyway, figuring out what you're actually going to get if you buy Hitman World of Assassination is very difficult. There's like there's several versions of the game, and then within that there are various pieces of DLC that may or may not be included in different things. And then depending on whether you previously owned some of the games, sometimes some of that shows up and sometimes it doesn't.
That's neat.
It's cool if it actually made sense.
It's all like one thing now, sort of, right? Like it's
Yes.
meant to be
It's all one engine. Like World of Assassination is one engine to run all the Hitman stuff.
Yeah, it's almost like its own
But the problem is
app for the other.
Yeah, the problem is all the actual levels to play kind of slot into this engine, and which ones you get when you buy it is highly variable and doesn't seem to make any sense. You get like if you can get like the Hitman 1, Hitman 2, Hitman 3 package, but that doesn't give you like the DLC for Hitman 2.
Oh, right, yes.
Okay.
Yeah, I remember when we were this like
all this stupid stuff like
I
that.
want to say a couple years ago now.
Anyway, let's get on to
SAG-AFTRA?
yeah, positive news.
Yeah.
Good news.
Good news.
Because we've talked a lot about the SAG-AFTRA strike and various things that have sort of come out of it. You know, there's certain companies have been working with the union to have sort of interim agreements to allow people working. There are certain companies that have done some sort of extremely sketchy stuff in terms of passing off voice acting work to non-union subsidiaries and stuff and trying to sort of do an end run around the whole thing.
Yeah.
But anyway, the SAG-AFTRA has apparently reached a tentative deal, which is great. And they haven't, I don't think the actual substance of the deal has been made public yet, presumably because they're still ratifying it. But we know that the big thing that they are one of the big things, other than working conditions and all that stuff, is the use of AI voices and use of likenesses and not only AI voice but likeness, because SAG-AFTRA also covers, as well as voice actors, also covers like motion capture actors and that kind of stuff.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
So all that kind of stuff is easy to, if you do a particular performance for a game, it's easy for that data to then become sort of disconnected from you as the actor, and suddenly shows up in other games or gets used for different things.
Yeah. Because it's like, but I didn't mean for that performance to go into somebody's sound library, right? It's
Right.
like, I did this as part of, attached to this thing, and if you want me to come back and do more of that, if you want to use it again, then you need to pay me again. Yeah.
But anyway, so yay for that.
Yeah. Or forcing a voice actor to say words that would be in a script that they might object to and therefore not want to be part of.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, that's the other thing, is that if you have an AI voice reference for an actor, and then start making them say things that they wouldn't say otherwise.
Yeah.
Like they did with the
James Earl Jones?
Darth Vader. I mean, of course, that is actually licensed.
They licensed that from the
Which-
family or whatever.
I'm sure the family's really loving the fallout from that.
I mean, it was deliberate.
Yep.
It was done sort of with the eyes open that it was a good payday.
Yeah,
So,
anything could happen if you use this voice, and so yeah, there you go.
anyway, so yay for that. We'll see what actually comes out of it. I liked, I mean, there's always that slight, whenever, I mean, this happened actually during the writer's strike as well, that sort of slight sort of confusion that, Fran Drescher is the head of SAG-AFTRA at the moment anyway. And from what I understand, is doing a pretty good job of it.
And she doesn't sound like how you remember her.
No,
Well,
it turns out that was not her real voice.
To be honest, I'm okay with that. I
Yeah.
always had a hard time watching that show with the
with her voice.
So-
the voice.
What's
Like I could do it, but it's not like a long term.
What's funny too is that like she did the same or similar voice in UHF, in Weird Al Yankovic's movie.
Right.
And so that's just when you see the performance in two different places, you walk away thinking,
Well,
oh, that's what she actually sounds like all the time.
I think it was based on her stand-up, I think.
Okay.
And that was a character she sort of created for her stand-up routine. But anyway. But I liked the thing she's saying where she's saying, the needle has been moved forward and we're in a better place before. But the reality of this situation is, as soon as this is ratified, we roll up our sleeves and plan the next negotiation.
Yeah.
This is an ongoing process. So.
Oh, and the most important thing from that story is that I've learned from the comments how many of you are old.
Excellent. Glad we knew that.
Yeah.
If the story about mortality earlier didn't cover it. Then.
No, but losing the game apparently definitely pushed off a lot of people into commenting.
I mean, when Nelson wrote that story, and I was like, "Whoa, okay, Nelson, pulling out a deep cut there."
Yeah, starting Thursday with violence. So.
And then talking about the Dragon Age.
Veilguard did not do so well.
Did not do so well. Again,
1.5 million copies.
asterisks. It did not do as well as they were hoping.
Yeah.
I guess is probably a good way to
Is
say
more
it.
the thing. Also,
Yeah.
I liked the game just fine.
Yeah, a lot of people did. But
I know some people didn't.
according to EA, it was considered to be a failure from sales perspective from EA. Now, this article that came out on Bloomberg from Jason Schreier was very interesting. Talking about basically, because this thing had such a ridiculously long production schedule.
Yeah.
When a game takes that long to produce, it then so much money has gone into producing it that it does. That now the break-even point for the game is, whatever,
Didn't it
20
get
million or something.
Yeah.
delayed a number of times internally too?
Well, that was the big problem, is that it got
'Cause-
massively delayed over and over and
Because
over
when
again.
if you're constantly trying to really hit like a specific date, it's not the same as like, oh, we know we have 8 years to make this game versus we're supposed to have 6 months. Oh, quick, we have another 6 months. Like that really changes
Yeah.
So
what you
apparently,
end up working on, right?
yeah. So apparently, the deal was first they were like, okay, we know that you guys make very highly acclaimed single-player games, but live service is the new hotness.
Oh, right. It was
So this is
supposed
gonna
to
be a live service
game
game.
originally.
Yeah.
And then they're like, okay. And so they started working on that, and they worked on that for a couple of years.
Mm-hmm.
And then I believe around the pandemic, they were like, you know what? We're not going to make it live service anymore. We're going to make it single player now. And they're like, and we also, you have, I think, 18 months or something, or a year or something to do it.
Oh.
To
Yeah.
change it from, so
Ooh,
it's
we
like,
gotta do that
and
kinda
then like,
swipe.
and it's like the kinds of stories that you can tell in a live service multiplayer game versus the kinds of stories that they would want to tell in the tone even of the whole thing
Yeah.
is
Which
very,
means
very different.
what can you keep? How much retooling do you have to do? And how much stuff do you just end up having to scrap because it's just faster to start over?
And so then they're like, they're working on this, and they're like, okay, what can we salvage in a year or whatever? And but then, as Jason Schreier pointed out, and he started a follow-up thing talking about it, and the real problem was, and it wasn't even like, I mean, this switching from multiplayer to single player was bad, but part of the other issue was that it was like, okay, we're switching to single player, you have a year, do it. And like after a year, they're like, this is not good. And they're like, okay, we'll give you another 6 months. Okay, we'll give you another 6 months. Okay, we'll give you another 6 months.
Yeah.
And like
Yeah.
you were saying,
That just
you
changes
can't-
your whole tone of what
and
you
it's
can
like,
do.
if the problem is we're trying to take our multiplayer thing and readapt and add new storylines and make the story more interesting and change it around and stuff.
Yeah.
and you're trying to do it in a short amount of time, and then you're like, we can't, we didn't quite get there, and they're like, okay, well, here's a little bit more time, and it's like what they really needed to do was, okay, let's go back and say we're not going to do this. It's going to be 3 years, or 2 years, or whatever. It's going to be a while.
Yeah.
We're going to go, and it turned out to be 4 years, but it was 4 years in 6-month chunks.
Yes.
So they never actually had a chance to get out in front of it.
Yeah. Because what you're doing is you're constantly just applying more Band-Aids because you're like, I only have 6 months to finish this, whatever. And then you start to get towards the end of that. And they're like, we'll give you another 6. It's like, if I'd known I'd had a year, it would have been a different set of Band-Aids.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, because then you're setting your priorities to be like, well, this has to ship in this much time. So this needs to get fixed and this needs to get fixed. This thing over here, we don't have time. So we'll let that be good enough.
Yeah.
And then...
And we run into these things over and over, and there's this sense that I have where I'm like, you watch something like this happen, and you have to wonder who got involved in the company that knows nothing about this kind of development. Like that's the things that like, how do you end up working for a game company, either at the BioWare level or at the EA level? How do you end up working for a company like that and not understand game development operates differently than app development?
I mean, I think it's not even necessarily that they don't understand. It's just that, I mean,
different priorities.
They don't care,
No,
or the different priorities, or
because it has to be you don't care.
Yeah, like it's a different. It's like they just the what they're looking at is amount of money spent per dollar return.
Yeah.
Which is, and so they're trying to optimize for that, and so it's a whole different deal.
Yeah.
Apparently, one of the other big things was near when they were sort of trying, still having a lot of problems coming down, and again they're coming down to when they were supposed to release it. The Mass Effect team was brought in to help them.
Yeah.
Which, so of course Mass Effect and BioWare, or Mass Effect and Dragon Age are both done by BioWare. Apparently the teams are generally fairly separate.
Mm-hmm.
And the description in the article is that the Dragon Age team has always been a bit like a pirate ship or something, where they kind of go off in different tangents, but they get there. But they sort of have a sort of holistic process,
right?
And apparently whereas the Mass Effect team was very much like
they have
target.
They have a rigid. They have a thing that they
apparently
it's kind of sci-fi versus Dungeons and Dragons, right? Which is a little more free and wheeling, and it's like no, sci-fi is very like
And they were also kind of the golden team or whatever. And so the other thing apparently
they've never made a shitty game,
pissed everyone off, or on the Dragon Age team, was that so they'd be like, okay, there's Dragon Age team was having all these problems and didn't have enough resources and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And so the Mass Effect team comes in, they have a meeting, and apparently there was meetings happening that the Dragon Age team wasn't part of, but they would have meetings, and then the Mass Effect team would be given all these resources that the Dragon Age team had been asking for months.
No.
Yeah.
And they're like, and so now it's like, oh, we need to, this particular area needs to have, a bigger, more exciting story to it.
Right.
And the Dragon Age team is like, yeah, we agree, but who's gonna we haven't been able to do that.
Yeah, no one's authorized us to do that work.
And then suddenly that money would appear because the Mass Effect team asked for it. So anyway. The whole thing, kind of a fraught thing that seems to be a lot of failure of management.
Yeah.
Again, lots of people like Dragon Age, so not necessarily a failure in terms of that aspect, but in terms of sales, they didn't like it. The other part of the story that Cameron really wanted to get into, I guess he's become the resident, I mean, not like he's the only one, but he was specifically how Bloomberg presented this story. And I've looked at I look at a reasonable number of Bloomberg stories in reference to checkpoint stuff.
Yep.
And this was also I actually agreed with Cam, and then this was the first time I had noticed this, although I think they've been starting to roll this out over the last little while. So
Okay.
this is certainly not the first story that they did this on.
Yeah.
But they're doing these AI
Summaries.
summaries
Yeah.
by Bloomberg AI
Yeah.
at the top of the article. And it just kind of blew our minds, like in terms of just this, like the idea that, organization, ostensibly a journalistic organization, the idea that rather that you would have like the article
Yeah.
and then you would AI create summaries.
Yeah.
If summaries are a thing that you decide are necessary, presumably the writer of the article could write those.
I mean, it'd be part of their pitch. Or part of the thing of like, we want you to
Usually-
write an article about blah. Like it's
Often that's
already
sort of
kind
what,
of already in the beginning process of writing an article.
often that's supposed to be like what the first paragraph of the article
Yeah,
is.
or
mean,
the first start.
I-
One of those things was that it just pulled a sentence from the article, and when you go through a lot of articles, sometimes they'll do that where they'll have like a sentence really big
Yeah,
and
pull-out
bold to
sentence.
kind of be like whatever. And I'm like, well, if you already are doing pull-out sentences, why wouldn't you just use those?
But those are quotes or pullouts that somebody has chosen. It isn't just an AI that has
I know.
gone through. Yeah.
But you could use those in the summary area.
It's funny too
If you're
because
like, I want a summary.
like your journalist, I mean, saying to the journalist is like, okay, thank you for submitting this article. Now write me 3 takeaways to go with this. It's like, yeah, that's fine. I can do that. I just wrote the article after all. I'm also getting paid by the word for
But-
those, right? And it's like, no, you're not. Then that's where that changes.
And of course, if the guy then comes back and says, no, or like, I don't think this article can be summarized in 3 sentences,
Exactly. Yeah.
then maybe that's an indication that that is not something that is useful.
True. Right.
I do
And
think-
so then you rely upon a copy editor to do that kind of thing because they have to read everything anyway and be like, I'm reading the whole thing. I'm coming away with these things. I'm marking this up or whatever. You get to the very end of the article, like, okay, cool. Here's what I learned from the article. This and this and this. And then you say to the journalist, is like, is that accurate? And they can be like, yeah, those are 3 things that you could take away from this article. Yes. So they could just say, yes, I agree with what you've done. Or the copy editor could just
Well,
be like, I don't give a shit what you think. I'm just going to put this up. But yeah.
Yeah.
I do think it's interesting that like we already know that like say the Google AI summaries are bad because they grab
Right.
from like essentially a large pool of information that shouldn't go into those
Yeah.
summaries.
Correct
right?
sounding phrases.
And
Yeah.
so to see, I'm assuming what is a program that is just supposed to look at one article,
Right.
mess it up.
Well, but it's they take the language model has sort of all sorts of language, like it needs to know about.
Oh,
There's a certain
sure.
base level
but
that it
in
needs
the
to
sense
know
of like what
of
it's
what-
trying to summarize, right?
Right.
Like,
Yeah.
when you Google something, the summary is grabbing from a whole whack of things, and some of those
Right,
things
yeah,
are just
okay.
outright wrong, whereas this should be only grabbing that information from one space.
Except the way that it grabs it can be wrong. Right?
Yeah.
And there's actually, when I was looking at this, there's an article in the New York Times about problems Bloomberg has had with their AI system. So, because I was like, I bet other newspapers have been
Oh, probably.
thinking about this.
Oh, yeah.
And one of the things this article was talking about like how they've had to, so like, Bloomberg, the newspaper, has had to put out several retractions for things that the AI has done incorrectly.
Oh, really?
So now we have, a journal or a newspaper or a journalistic thing printing retractions for things that an AI wrote for it.
Yeah.
There was a, stuff where like there was an article about the tariffs, and it's a very complicated topic.
Mm-hmm.
And but the AI summary was like, these tariffs, which started last year, and it was like,
No, they
no,
haven't.
they didn't. And just stuff like that, anyway.
Yeah.
So anyway, we'll see. Yeah, hopefully, I don't know what the. I know BioWare has. I don't know if I don't think BioWare has actually been closed, but they have lost a lot of people. Just they had a whole round of layoffs and stuff. So we'll see what happens with that, but
not looking great.
And then speaking of people in management positions,
Right.
Lars Wingfors, the CEO of Embracer Group, who we've talked a little bit about Lars in the past, actually.
We sure have.
Definitely talked about Embracer Group a lot.
Because he's, as the CEO of Embracer Group, he's actually been like one of the surprisingly, not forward, but like
Forthcoming,
and kind of front facing. Like usually, the CEO of a sort of big holding company like this wouldn't necessarily be like the front man.
Yeah, like I'm going to talk to anybody. Yeah.
But he's been fairly, a year ago or a couple months ago, when Embracer Group had to pull way back because they lost that $2 billion investment that was supposed to be coming in. They had to pull way back, and then they ended up they're doing their split into 3 parts. And he got like it was he sort of his explanation. He was like, I love too much almost. I wanted all these companies, and I was so excited about having putting all these companies, but like
we did make fun of Embracer Group for embracing things too hard.
And so they expanded too much and acquired companies too quickly, especially in relation to like the pandemic and
and then they had to let a bunch of them go.
And I know it's hard.
Yeah.
Sorry, I was going to say, and I know it's hard to say one way or the other. It's like, well, would those companies have continued to operate, or would they have failed utterly, or those kind of like that kind of idea where it's like, who did you acquire that you ended up having to let a ton of people go?
In a lot of cases, they were. Before they acquired them, they were successful companies.
Exactly, because that's the whole point. You want to acquire somebody who's a successful company. It's like, right, and somebody who's a successful company, you don't know. It's like, will they be able to continue to iterate on that success over and over in the long run? You hope that a small studio can grow to a point where they're like, we are comfortable and we are stable and everything is operating very well, and we aren't committed to like crazy growth over the next 30 years or whatever. So when it happens,
if they bought some of them if they were in the state of like, we really need that backing or we're not going to make it further, then there might have been a good chance that those companies would have fallen apart anyway. Or there's a bunch of companies that I think after they got released from Embracer Group bought themselves out and stuff as well.
Yeah.
They probably were fine.
Yeah.
And were like, but this is good cash flow or whatever.
Yeah.
Who knows what the reasonings were.
Yeah. So he's, Lars has, taken some responsibility for this.
Good.
And now is in fact stepping down as CEO of Embracer Group. So now he is going to be reduced to only the executive chair of the board. What is he going to be in charge of as the executive chair on the board?
Mergers and acquisitions.
Yes. Strategic initiatives, mergers and acquisitions, and capital investment.
I hate this so
That
much.
sounds less like stepping down and just more like a position reassignment.
It makes me wonder if is this like his expertise that he got from wherever he was? Is like, my big thing is doing lots of mergers and acquisitions and doing all these it's not about running an actual fucking company. It's just about acquiring other companies. And they're like, okay, so maybe what we do is we don't put you in charge of the company that is trying to acquire all this shit, but what we do is we give you oversight of that. So then therefore when the actual decision maker says, I want to do this, then you can have oversight of it. Maybe that's what this role is supposed to be, is like, he doesn't get to suggest it. He just gets like, yeah, that's okay.
Or it's just like, when we say we want to acquire a company, you do that. But you don't get to decide when we acquire it.
Yeah. Hopefully that's what's happened here. Like, I don't know, but it's just like, this fucking sucks. Like, it doesn't suck for me because I'm not at all involved in the Embracer Group and I don't give a shit about what goes on there. But it's like, it doesn't feel like somebody who messed up that terribly is now getting shown the door. It's like, we're just going to fail you upwards.
No. When you say that you're stepping down, that's you taking responsibility. That's
Yeah.
not the same thing as we're firing you and we're punishing you,
Yeah, exactly.
And it's just like
even though the result is clearly going to be the same.
it's just like there's got to be other portfolios that they could have given him.
Yeah.
Other than the exact things that he said that he did badly on.
Yeah, that's true.
Anyway. All right.
We
Let's.
got something different, some new stories.
Yeah, we got a few things that we can talk about. Some of the stuff, of course, there's been the Summer Game Fest. It is the festival of a single game.
The one you all lost.
Keep trying to not say
you were-
Games Fest.
Yeah. But there's been that's been going on, and sort of associated with that is like there's been a whole bunch of other events that have happened, and so a bunch of stuff has been released. A bunch of info about things has been released. One of the games that got a little bit of a teaser during the Summer Game Fest broadcast, and then they released more info and stuff later, was the new Resident Evil Requiem.
Right, 9.
Resident Evil.
They kept trying to make that Q into a 9 while it was doing the flashy flashes.
Yeah, Resident Evil 9, which they're, as is their wont, it is a reimagining. They're doing some reimagining, changing the series, which seems to happen every 2 or 3 iterations. Resident Evil has always been a fairly malleable series.
Yeah.
But this particular one, it's going to be starring Grace Ashcroft.
Oh, wait. Does that mean when the dogs pop out of the window and come to attack you, you can pet them?
Maybe. That would be a dramatic reimagining.
Mm-hmm. They did say they're leaning back more into horror than... There will be some action elements, but it will be more of a horror game like it used to be.
Okay.
Yeah.
And now you're not like an agent that does like
What about-
I'm trained to do a thing. You're a technical analyst for the FBI.
Yeah. Apparently she's like, doesn't...
Well, no.
They've said explicitly that like she doesn't really know how to use a gun.
It's not the FBI. It's like the FBN or something. They have like their
No,
own...
it's the FBI.
Is it the FBI?
Yeah.
I thought it was something different.
In this article it says she works for the FBI. I mean, it's the police force that people are like the Raccoon City Police, whatever, RPD. But
Still like that it's Raccoon City. It sounds so it sounds like fucking Animal Crossing to me.
It sounds like where you'd find Sly Cooper.
yeah, I mean maybe that's going to be the twist.
Oh, that would be funny.
So yeah, they're going deep into the survival survival horror type stuff. The main reason why I thought this was interesting was some of these quotes of things from Capcom saying it's going to be deep. It promises deeply terrifying aspects of psychological horror with pulse-pounding action. Although she won't be as skilled as Leon Kennedy, fans should still expect some action to go along with their survival horror. They're saying, prepare to escape death in a heart-stopping experience that will chill you to your core. A new era of survival horror begins in 2026. Technological advancements combined with the development team's depth of experience combine in that's technological
No, it does say
advancements
it that way.
combined with development team's depth of experience combine in a story with rich characters and gameplay that is more immersive than ever before. Nothing like this has ever been combined before. Spine-chilling realism like never before. Complex character details like lifelike facial animations, realistic skin textures, and even high-fidelity sweat droplets
Ew.
are sure to keep players on the edge of their seats.
So it's Final
No.
Fantasy: The Spirits Within.
I don't need liquids to be realistic.
Realistic, I feel like the realistic skin textures are going to be possibly interrupted by realistic axe textures.
Like it's like obviously if you want to freak people out, you give them realistic skin textures, and then you give them like but now unrealistic skin behavior and shit like that. It's, I
Yeah.
great horror game. I'm not gonna play it, so I don't
What
care
about,
what happens. Like,
what about? I don't want realistic skin textures. I want we want to see some freaky deaky skin textures.
yeah, absolutely.
So anyway, something for the Let's Note boys to
I
check
guess, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, at these things, there's generally like 3 or 4 games that I feel hit that category. At least for like, if you're not like an actual horror game, there's something with zombies in it or something that has elements that works fine enough.
Mind's Eye is a game.
Yep.
That much
That is
not in
that
dispute.
is not disputable. People will agree with that one.
But unfortunately, it's a game that has had a bit of a rocky launch, and I don't know if this is like a high enough profile game to be like the new, like there was like Fallout 76 was like kind of the
For a while.
the whipping boy for a while.
Yeah, I mean,
and
it's
then
kind of
Cyberpunk.
fallen
And
off.
Cyberpunk.
I mean, those things have gotten better
and
over
then
time.
both of those have
so.
had enough sort of development resources behind them to improve themselves.
Yeah.
To the point where people liked them, but this is having a very, very rocky launch. People were excited. There was a lot of interest in this. So Mind's Eye, it's the main producer behind the Grand Theft Auto games up until Grand Theft Auto 5 left Rockstar, started a new studio, and this is the first game they did. So people were kind of excited about. They thought there was some potential there.
Okay.
There's also a weird thing where it was like originally supposed to be part of like a sort of a demonstration of the everything game development system that was something that Sony, I believe, was working on.
Okay.
It was sort of a not Little Big Planet, but like sort of a game development within a game kind of
Oh,
thing.
okay. Huh.
And it was sort of going to be a demonstration of that, but then it got too big and they decided to just make it its own thing.
Huh.
But also a bunch of the higher ups in Mind's Eye left right before it was released. They didn't give out any, didn't do any review code, like any pre-launch review codes to any.
Oh.
Yeah, that's always
There's been
not a great sign.
I thought it was indicative. The Gamer, the
website.
Yeah, the gaming blog,
Thegamer.com.
gaming news site. I thought it was indicative if I just look at if I look up their thing on Mind's Eye, see all the articles that have been done in the last little while about Mind's Eye, starting at the end of May. A concerted effort has been made to trash the game. Mind's Eye lead developer thinks the negative reaction to the game is coming from paid bots. Next article. Mind's Eye looks like a fake game you'd see played in an episode of Breaking Bad.
Ooh.
Next article. I think it's a good length. Mind's Eye developer defends the shorter runtime and a linear approach. They pulled a Cyberpunk. Mind's Eye is a technical disaster as it debuts to mostly negative reviews on Steam.
That one was 3 days ago.
Yeah, 2 days ago. Mind's Eye's disastrous launch now seemingly has the devs scrambling to cancel sponsored streams.
Oh, right. I remember hearing that. Like, there were some streams that had been live for about just a couple of minutes and they got canceled.
Yeah, and
immediately.
then they got an email that was like, yeah, we're not sponsoring this anymore.
And they had to, but some of them were like, we might do a sponsored thing later. But
because we don't want
to
to straight up just say that we're canceling the stream and have to pay you
a thing about that.
regardless.
Mind's Eye invokes memories of Cyberpunk 2077 as the PlayStation begins issuing refunds, which is something they don't do.
Yep.
They have only previously done it for Cyberpunk.
There has to be a massive amount of people doing the outreach and being like I want a refund, in order for them to give in on that.
And yeah, Mind's Eye devs say we are heartbroken and respond to launch day issues among refunds and mostly negative reviews.
Yeah.
It seems to be got some serious bugginess to it.
The Cyberpunk one, I remember when they said we'll do refunds, it had if I remember right, it sounded like Sony was not aware that they were doing refunds.
There was some
for
negotiation there, yeah.
Yeah.
I do think it's interesting also that game, based on every single screenshot that I saw in the in thegamer.com here, it's almost all of them are done orange, yellow, and brown. Like those are the only colors that I'm looking at.
Does not look very interesting.
Yeah, I'm guessing this is supposed to take place in Mexico. Like that's the lighting they've
Or
decided
like
to use.
California or something, I guess.
So it has that cinematic lighting, but yeah, there's only one where there's any actual blue from a blue sky in it, and even then it's like blue on like heavy shadows and shit. So well, whatever.
Yeah, I mean, it's still pretty amazing to have sponsored streams get canceled like while the sponsored stream is happening or just before they occur. Like that's not
a good sign.
That's not generally that normal.
No.
Not to that degree.
Speaking of other games, though, that have been announced, Splatoon Raiders.
Yeah.
And now you know everything we know about it too.
Which
I don't know.
has gotten I've seen a lot of hype around single player game. So it's not it's not like Splatoon.
Yeah.
It's another game within the Splatoon world.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You're playing with you're like the whatever the band is.
Deep Cut is the name of the band from Splatoon 3, and
That's the one
they
that
will
they
be
talked about.
along for the ride with you for whatever it is that you're doing. But it's not clear as to what that means, if they're going to be AI run along kind of thing, or it's like I'm going to come like Daikatana, if they're going to come path with you and do shit, or if they're going to be like we're going to wait at the base, or,
Right, yeah.
or we're going to send you out to do stuff.
And even like what kind of a game I don't think has been established
Not
yet.
really.
Yeah.
I'm sure there's been like an amount of speculation, but I'm excited to see them do spin-off stuff.
I mean, I always love the aesthetic of Splatoon, but have no particular interest in the gameplay of it. Like
so-
the sort of.
So,
So I've been interested
here's
in
the
trying
thing,
it out.
Paul. Splatoon 1, 2, and 3 all have a solo player mode, like a campaign that you can go through and play with a story. And that part of the game I've generally liked. The 4-on-4 player thing, while I think is fun, is just not my bag. So for this to be like, hey, this could be anything, and I'm like, please don't be one of the other genres I don't like. Please don't end up being some weird extraction shooter. Just please be something fun.
The single player game in Splatoon, the single player thing that you do in Splatoon is largely about area traversal and stuff. It's like learning how to use all the weapons, and in the process, learning how to move through the ink and be able to like paint a wall and then move up through the wall to get to the top of a thing and traverse over stuff, and there's platforming and a lot of that kind of idea. And yeah, it's like that was fun.
And that could turn into a pretty solid,
Cave exploration type thing,
or just even just like a third-person platforming type, sort
Exactly.
of Mario kind of.
Yeah.
And it's you're in extremely unrealistic environments. It doesn't feel like the kind of place that you're in. A no places where you are and you're moving through, because it's supposed to be testing your abilities as an agent kind of idea. It's very Portal, except then of course Portal feels like a real place eventually, and this is everything you see is like we're outside, we're in kind of like lots of cliffs, very American Southwest kind of feeling, much like Mario Kart
Well,
World.
for now, I mean, that might just be one area they're showing off.
Yeah, and it's like, what is actually happening in this space? What are they supposed to be doing here? Is the job that because there is a enemy. Clearly, you see it like in the trailer. There is a point where this enemy shows up. It's all black and white and blurry. It's like, oh, there's somebody looking at you through their big eye or whatever, and you're like, okay, so something is happening here. Is it ultimately going to be tower defense? Is it going to be because they did Salmon Run, but I'm like, I don't think they'll want to do the same thing they did with Salmon Run.
I don't think they'll be doing quite that.
Where that's area defense. And
like that game, did they give it a year? Did they say 2026 or 2027 or something on it?
I thought it was 2026, but
Probably
I could
2026.
Be wrong, yeah.
So we'll probably learn more about it in like the fall. I could see, depending on roughly when they're aiming for. I'm just excited because I've been advocating that they do an idle rhythm game, because they've got like 3 idle groups in that game now,
and so much music
for ages, that I think that would be great. And I'm like, this is clearly not going to be that, but if they're doing spin-off games, it's
Right.
like I've gotten a step in the right
Opens the
direction,
door,
right?
yeah.
It's
Yeah.
like
And-
it's more possible now.
And Nintendo's had like multiple unique rhythm. I don't want to. Well, I guess labels, like whatever you want to call them, right? Like Rhythm Heaven is kind of Nintendo's own thing that they make. Daigasso Band Brothers was a thing that Nintendo was making them. I don't know if it was an internal team making it or not, but it was like Nintendo only. And then Os Tatakai Oendan and Elite Beat Agents being another thing that was only available on Nintendo DS.
Yeah,
at
but
the
that
time.
wasn't
It's-
a Nintendo.
there was Innis, right? But
Yeah.
it's like those three IP being a music game that you can play, a rhythm game that you can play, DDR Mario Mix notwithstanding. But those things like belonging to Nintendo or kind of being on the Nintendo platform, I'm surprised that they haven't looked at Splatoon and said, we should actually make a rhythm game that's kind of like Hatsune Miku, like Project Mirai, or
Yeah,
like
I mean
that
that's the kind of
thing.
game I specifically want.
Yeah.
Although now that you brought up Rhythm Heaven, I believe we're getting one
We are
next year.
Rhythm Heaven Groove.
And sometimes they have like little nods to other small Nintendo things in them occasionally. So maybe there'd be like a Splatoon nod.
It would be really neat. I mean, we've said for a while now that it's like Nintendo has so much great music that why isn't there a more involved kind of scaling difficulty rhythm game in kind of the Bimani context? And,
Yeah.
you
So
know.
like the guys who did Theat Rhythm for Final Fantasy, they've also done like a Dragon Quest one. I remember there being an interview where they said that they would be really up for doing a Nintendo branded one.
Yeah.
And I'd be like, Nintendo has so much music. It would be just nice if they would make a rhythm game.
It would be a whole
That would be
series, right? So
What is this screenshot? This looks cool. What are we talking about now?
Oh, right.
So yeah. Anyway,
We don't know
Splatoon-
much about Raiders.
we don't know much about Raiders, but it is happening, and it sounds cool. So yeah,
Riot does have a rhythm game. I didn't like it.
you know how a lot of companies are really pushing that nostalgia thing hard these
Yes.
days. Atari wants to get in on it.
Oh no.
Because they are coming out with a game called Adventure of Samsara.
Yeah.
Adventure of Samsara. Or
Okay.
the Atari has previewed the game. And if I switch over to screen cap here, check this out. I'm sure
This looks a lot like a.
you will know immediately what incredibly popular
Atari
Atari franchise this is based on.
After all, it's such a 1-to-1 update.
It's a very, 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 very popular franchise. And the name is the clue because this is apparently
Yeah.
based on it takes place within the world and the lore
Okay.
adventure.
Yeah, the Atari
Wait.
2600 game Adventure.
Adventure. You know the game, yeah. That like you're the little square and you move around and there's like
A big duck.
a big dragon duck thing
I didn't
that attacks you.
I didn't really get into Atari, so I don't even know if I was the right age group.
That
Atari's older.
yeah.
Yes.
I just like there's no like I don't
There's
know
nothing
maybe
to hang your hat on here for
maybe
adventure.
there's more lore and adventure than I know.
Yeah.
I mean I have actually played like a little bit of adventure.
Yeah.
And kind of moved around a little bit and then died.
Yeah.
And it was not very exciting. I guess maybe in the manual there's some info that you could look at, but it's just like really they're making it's a Metroidvania.
I mean, it definitely looks like one.
Yeah.
Which I mean, do you really call it that? Considering adventure,
Came first?
yeah. That seems it's like Metroid.
enough.
Yeah, adventure was before both Metroid and Castlevania.
So what's funny about this too is that Yars Rising in 2024 is another, another lore-based remake
right, yeah.
thing. It's a sequel. It came out. Yeah, apparently Yar's Rising is a Metroidvania as well, and so I'm like, I think that's just like what's an easy game that you can. I don't mean easy in terms of development. Like all games aren't really easy to make, but it's like what's a game that you can easily market to people and be like, this is a thing that feels like this.
Anyone
and it's
play it? I remember them announcing it.
yeah,
I haven't heard anyone talking about it.
Yes, because if it was probably amazing, we would all be talking about it, but it might just be kind of a de rigueur Metroidvania that kind of like slots in at the 6 or 7 out of 10 situation. But
to be honest, some of the stuff like this game actually sounds like it could be kind of cool.
Oh yeah,
to play it. Like, okay, so Metroidvania exploration: explore 10 unique biomes from frozen waste to industrial labs, each filled with distinct enemies.
All right.
Classic gameplay feel with classic gameplay and twisted 2D pixel art. Adventures of Samastra evokes the timeless feel of games like Prince of Persia, 1989, while offering something entirely new. You got to really specify which Prince of Persia you're trying to.
That's fair. There's a
evoke.
lot of them
Prince
now.
of Persia 3D.
Original world building. Immerse yourself in expansive interdimensional fantasy world with a deep spiritual lore. Adventure Easter eggs. The game features nods to the original adventure with familiar structures, enemies, and references that reward both new and returning players. Collectibles, hidden collectible. Anyway.
The hidden collectibles.
I'm not sure Easter eggs reward new players.
That's fair.
No.
Returning players, sure.
Yeah.
People who are familiar with the franchise, sure. But people who are brand new, I don't think Easter eggs reward much of anything.
No. I had not an Atari 2600, but I had a Coleco Gemini which could play Atari 2600 games, and I did not have a copy of Adventure. So I never learned anything about this other than what I saw online, like in later years. It's just kind of. This is I think it's cool that they made a thing, and I think it's cool that they want to try to draw out some of the earlier games that have been made for the Atari and being like, we think that there was some cool ideas floating in the manuals, and we want to actually make an expensive game. Go ahead, yeah.
I mean, I'm curious what they'll come up with, but it is a little bit like whatever, a movie based on the Battleship, or whatever,
Yes.
right? Where it's like. You could just make a good movie, or good whatever. But it's like you could just make a movie, and say that it's a battleship movie because it's got like battleships in it. Basing it on something that has so little story is like, sure, whatever.
And I don't know when we hit a point where like Prince of Persia got a reboot. Right. I mean, it had multiple reboots, but it got a reboot when the one that I played the GameCube, the 3 on the GameCube kind of thing. When that reboot series happened, that was a revelation for Prince of Persia. Like
that was an excellent game.
Yeah, people loved Prince of Persia, but then you get to do the
You streamed that one, right?
I did. I streamed all 3 of them, in fact.
Oh.
And
I remember the one.
That was a thing where like the Sands of Time. That's the subtitle for it. That was a thing where everyone said, this is a hell of a game. Like they were really like, oh my God, this is so good.
Yeah.
Yar's Rising came out in 2024. Nobody has been going on about it like Hollow Knight. Adventure of Samsara is now, coming out soon or whatever it's.
They haven't announced it
coming soon.
Yeah,
but
they haven't announced the time for it yet.
If it is kind of that same revelatory thing where it's like, this is a really good game, this is a 9 out of 10 kind of game, right? And everyone's like, this is really fucking good. How did Atari pull this off? Because that's the thing. They will all say that. How did Atari pull this off? Because for years we've always been like, Atari still exists as a thing, but nobody really expects anything out of them, I don't think, because Atari hasn't really done anything in the last maybe 15 years where we've really sat up and said, oh my God, look at that. It's just mostly been like Atari continues to make games, and people are like, yeah.
I think the last time
it's like watching your granddad do more, like try to do shit, right? And it's like it's cute that he thinks that he can like rollerblade, but I know this is gonna end badly, like.
The last thing I really remember of Atari was when they were like, we're making a hotel that looks like our logo,
yes!
and I think that fell apart.
Yeah.
And like, why?
Yeah.
Okay.
It's yeah. So I mean. we'll see. You know, obviously, there's always the chance that it could be great.
I want it to be great. I want there to always be great Metroidvanias because I always want to play them because, oh my God, have I played some Metroidvanias that I thought were going to be good and you sit down and play and you're just like, this is not great. And then I played The Mummy Demastered and I was like, this is a really good game that I didn't expect we were going to get. It's actually, it was like, this is all right. This is like an 8 out of 10 game. I just didn't feel like I needed to finish it. But I was like, I'm having a pretty good experience here. So, and like Monster Tale for the DS, I always mention that because you told me, you're like, you need to play this. I'm like, okay. Yeah. And I'm like, this is an astounding game.
Yeah, Monster Tale on the DS was great.
Yeah. Hidden gem. It's so expensive now if you want to get a copy of it because you can't buy it online. You have to like buy the cartridge for it. But
it mixes the Metroidvania thing with like a pet simulator in the top screen that while you evolve your little friend and stuff. And it was so weird. And they were supposed to be rebringing it back out on the Switch, and I don't think they did. I don't know if that
they tried to do a 3DS reboot as well. That didn't.
I don't know if that company's doing super well, but
it's a very small team.
It was a really cool game.
So yeah, Atari, I hope this works. Like I hope this is really good, and I hope people are like rave about this damn thing because I would just like to hear about something you've made that's actually like is lighting people's brains on fire. That would be great. Then it would feel like, oh, there's some shit actually going on there at Atari still.
All right. I think those are the main things I want to talk about. Yeah. Although, I mean...
Oh, did you hear there was Hollow Knight news? The Xbox showcase?
All right, there was Hollow Knight news.
What was the Hollow Knight news?
Well, so first of all, Xbox is doing a portable device that looks like either a Steam Deck or a Nintendo Switch, whichever one you want.
The
they all
Asus
look the
ROG
thing.
Xbox Ally.
Right.
Yeah.
Which was sort of rumored, but they've finally actually shown it off.
Yeah, and when they showed it off, they showed off like a second or two of new footage from Silksong, and the like a background that showed some achievement like number that said, I don't know. I watched a video where a guy was like, "Oh, look, we know it has like 50 some achievements," and I'm like, "You've seen a screen mock-up, you know nothing."
I like that trolling people about Silksong is now like an industry pastime.
Been for a while.
But like, it's not even Team Cherry doing it.
I think there's a thing that said that it was Silksong would be out when the device came out in the holidays season or something.
Right.
So it's basically saying that Silksong should be out by holiday 2025, and
which have they already said that it was going to be out in 2025?
2025 is when they said it was going to be out. The last time they said, oh, it's totally going to be out by a certain time was when Xbox said it was coming out day one Game Pass and it'll be out within 12 months. And that was 3 years ago.
Yeah.
So, you know.
Yeah. Team Cherry said that it will be out before. It won't be like it's not supposed to be. It'll be
out
available
sometime before the console.
Yeah.
See, and that's what I was.
It'll be available for the launch, but it isn't a launch title.
No, yeah, and when Beej and I were watching the video where someone was like, "Oh, it's totally happening now," I was like, if it's going to be out in time for the console, that doesn't mean that's when it's launching.
Yeah.
But
well, it's also like launch title doesn't really mean anything in the context of like a Windows console because it's just like. You don't need launch titles. Every game it just runs Windows games.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The games already exist. But anyway,
I did not have portable Xbox console though on my bingo card for 2025.
Oh really?
Yeah,
you should have.
I know they kept talking about
strong rumors about it.
But I was like, that's not going to happen. And in the way that it is happening, I'm kind of like, oh, I see. That's very cute. You took something that Asus was already making and you said, you know what, we want to slam a couple Xbox buttons on it and put a custom experience on it. I'm like, okay, you didn't make your own thing. You are third party partnering with this is interesting. Okay, it's very Steam Deck in that way that I'm like somebody else could start making Steam Decks, I'm sure as well.
Honestly, I actually assumed it was more something that they would release next year, or talk about more next year, not like a this year thing. But I'm doing my part to make sure Silksong's coming out. I'm getting my Hollow Knight VODs from 2018 online, and therefore I'm contributing.
Nice.
Yes.
I did wanted to. I mean,
That's been what's been holding it up.
in
That.
terms of other sort of video gamey stuff, I think both of us have a Switch 2 now. Have you gotten a chance to like play around with it? much?
Played some Mario Kart World a little bit.
Yeah.
I tested Hatsune Miku on it to see if the load times were faster on that game, and they are a little bit. I don't know if that game I don't think that game necessarily got an update or anything.
We've now, for once,
Right.
actually had to set our TV in game mode at home so that when you do play Project Mirai on the TV, that everything lines up properly. Previously, playing anything on the TV, there was on the Switch 1, there was never really a need
Yeah.
to.
I'm gonna just correct you. It's not Project Mirai. That's a 3DS
Oh, I'm
DS
sorry.
only series, and we only got one of the games.
So what is the one on the Switch?
I think it's Mega Mix.
Okay.
Yeah.
Sorry, I thought it was a Project something or other.
No. I mean, they're all kind of under that name
Right.
title, but Mirai is like more of a chibi style look.
Because there's another Hatsune project game, like has project in the title, Sega called it whatever, but it's for a different platform, I thought. For
Yeah,
PlayStation or something.
There's Future Tone, Project F. Or
That's what I'm
something.
thinking of, yeah.
That's like Vita
Thank
and
you.
like an older PlayStation. I think that might be 4.
I know there's another project
They use
something.
the word project in a lot of them to the
Yeah.
point where people don't generally use that name.
That's why I was confused about which one was which.
It's okay. I just,
I've been playing like a reasonable amount of Mario Kart. It's not like, I think it's a really good Mario Kart game. I probably wouldn't have like bought Mario Kart myself if it wasn't the bundle. Like,
yeah.
it's just not like a game that I
Kart racers aren't
have that much.
Generally the thing that I get into, so I agree. I probably wouldn't have either, but it's fun. I've
It's
had a lot
cool.
of fun with it.
Yeah, I like driving around and especially in the open world mode.
Yeah.
Yes.
I say that, and yet I'm really interested in checking out Kirby Air Ride 2 and also the Sonic racing game, because they're putting Hatsune Miku and like Joker from Persona 5 and Ichiban
I think it's Ichiban,
from
Like a
Yakuza
Dragon.
in it,
Yeah.
and it was kind of
I'm-
weird, and
I'm
I mean,
enjoying.
it looks fun.
I'm enjoying
honestly.
playing all the weirdo drivers. Like Piranha Plant and
Yeah.
the cow,
I like was it Krabby?
Krabby. Yeah.
I like Krabby.
the
pictures.
the different thing. It's like, how does the Piranha Plant drive? Don't question
I
it.
think I played about a couple hours. I probably play about 3 or 4 hours a week of Mario Kart World just in free roam mode. It's so relaxing to just kind of drive. I mean, it's relaxing and that's absolutely fucking infuriating. Some of those P-switch things that you have to do. It's like, oh my god. Anyway,
I
Yeah,
do find that there's a
it's,
little bit of like, I've just been playing some other Mario games.
Yeah.
Like I was playing. I got Mario Sunshine.
oh okay,
Old school.
yeah.
So I've been playing that, and going over to this, I'm like, oh, this is fun, driving around doing stuff, and it's like, I kind of want, I don't know, I feel like I want like some sort of, I don't know, I want to be fighting Bowser or something. Like I want there to be a reason that I'm collecting all this stuff.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah.
It can be like a pretty like tissue paper thin reason, but like a little bit of
Just a
something
little-
would help me get motivated to do things. I
Sure.
think.
Okay.
I don't know. I do like the free roam because I do feel like it's the racing portion is still just a lot of racing, and I mean they've got some really interesting modes with like the knockout tour, and I like that the battle mode has collecting coin and not just balloon popping. And then like kind of more of your standard races and stuff are in there as well. But I really do like the chill nature of free roam, and a lot of I think it's actually a really good idea, even if there are people who aren't really into free roam, but in terms of like kids who are playing this game, because I've seen lots of stuff about kids who will play some of the Kirby games and they'll like wave at Kirby and they just want to like I know I heard a story from someone about their kid played Forgotten Lands, and every time they made Kirby go eat and then also go take a nap because it's like the daily thing that you're supposed to do. So I just kind of feel like a chill free roam thing for a kid in a cart is probably a lot of fun.
And there's just like lots of sort of cool things going on in the world that you can kind of look at.
Kind of an exploration thing you can do. And yeah.
I just want to know what the economy is like. Why they have to transport these why so many trucks have to be transporting large tilted ramps everywhere.
Yes.
Hey, I gotta get this tilted ramp over there.
I got all this bamboo hanging off the side of my car at 45 degrees. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Who knows why?
I mean, it was fun. Didn't you? I saw you do this, Beach, where you like ran into the back of a giant truck and then you took over driving the truck.
There are several
That's a
instances.
thing?
Yeah. Not only that, Paul, there are other things that you can do that are related to that, and I don't want to spoil them because they're so much fun to just discover. So
As a I suppose as a bit of a humble brag, maybe problem that I have. I mean, not really a brag because I've been playing most of the actual like levels or the actual like races on like so far on like 50 cc's or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
But a problem that I'm having, one issue I'm having is that because I'm almost always in first. When you're in first and you get the question mark things, you don't get any of the cool stuff.
Yeah.
When you're in first and you get the question mark things, you get like coins or the like banana peel, and like that's it.
yeah,
Mm-hmm.
yeah.
And so I'm like, there's so many cool things, but I never get it because I'm too good.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
I suppose I could just put the game into a harder mode, but then I would be challenged, I don't want that.
It's a nice thing about free roam is that there's certain, like in free roam, they kind of concentrate more on giving you speed boost and feather and stuff like that. But there are some challenges you can do in free roam mode where there's one that I did literally where no matter what, it always gives you the super horn. Like whatever, anything you pick up during a challenge is just going to be the super horn because you need that to get through the actual challenge. Mm-hmm. And so I like that there are challenges set up to let you play with some of the other items and you get a chance to work on that stuff more. Because the whole challenge thing in the game, I've noticed, is designed to try to introduce you to doing other things.
Right.
Like I did a challenge last night that was about show off your wall riding skills. I'm like, I hate wall riding in this game.
I don't have wall riding skills.
Yeah, but as I the first night that I did it, I wasn't able to do any of that, and I just passed it and I went on my way. And then I just stumbled across it last night, and I'm like, okay, I've now learned how to trigger this stuff. I'm going to try to make it work. And about 10 tries, I finally landed it, and I was like, great.
They got to get the go talk to the Tears of the Kingdom team or the Breath of the Wild team. Get some map markers and
some map markers would be really nice, honestly, because there are challenges that I kind of bypass, and I'm like, I really would like to mark this so I know where to come back.
Yeah,
and like I'd like to. There's all sorts of things that'd be nice to show on the map that don't get shown anywhere.
Yeah,
but anyway,
it's been fun though. It's
I'm excited.
I like the railing driving. On stuff.
But I'm excited for other games. I also tried the the Pokemon Scarlet and Violet because it got like an upgrade.
Yeah.
And
it's
cool.
Because I haven't plugged that one.
It definitely looks like it's like, oh, this is what Pokemon Scarlet and Violet looked like, sort of how they should look, in the sense that it's like running at a good frame rate. Things aren't randomly dropping. Guys in the background aren't moving at like 5 frames a second.
Yeah.
This is actually like the way the game should look.
Yeah.
Still isn't like the most amazing looking game, like.
Yeah,
but,
and I mean, I assume it's still.
It's just like, oh, okay, cool.
Yeah, and I assume it's still broken in certain ways. Like,
it doesn't make
some of the weird.
It doesn't make the story any better.
No, well, I meant in like terms of like there was a whole thing about when some people got on and off the bike, the stretchiness that would happen to the character.
I don't know about that. That hasn't happened to me, but I don't know.
But
I don't think it's
maybe
that kind of stuff.
Maybe they fixed that over time anyway. Like it's been a while, so.
But anyway. I'm excited to try new other Switch 2 things.
Yeah, I'm actually really excited for the Donkey Kong game that's supposed to come out, I think, next month.
Yeah.
I think that'll be a lot of fun.
Yeah.
Smashing things.
Mm-hmm. Anyway, thanks everybody for joining us on ChillPoint. If you haven't watched the episode of Checkpoint that we were talking about, you should go do that because it is very funny. It is up on our YouTube channel, youtube.com/LRRVG. But until then, well, until next week, I guess, we will talk to you later. Bye.